Mike Sullivan and Rick Tocchet are now available in the coaching market. And I can't help but think, would they be at the top of the Boston Bruins list? In this video, I'm going to cover these two candidates for now, because I do think, as Sweeney said, some of their candidates are still coaching, and I think they will materialize after the playoffs on who those coaches are. So buckle up, Bruins fans. I'm here to give you the latest info on your beloved Boston Bruins. If you've been liking my Bruins content, please leave me a like and subscribe. If you've already done so, thank you, and let's get into it. We may be in the midst of the NHL playoffs, but the coaching carousel continues around the league. Two of the biggest names to hit the coaching free agent market in a long time have now become the only two coaches anyone wants to talk about right now. Both Tocchet and Sullivan have ties to Boston. Both Sullivan and Tocchet have played for the Boston Bruins at one time in their career, and Sullivan coached in the organization. Both are familiar with the Bruins ownership and how the organization conducts itself. If you listen to the rumors right now, though, Tocchet will be the next head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, and Sullivan will be the next head coach of the New York Rangers. Elliot Friedman said he would be shocked if Mike Sullivan is not named the New York Rangers' next head coach. The Tocchet to Philadelphia rumors started as soon as John Tortorella was fired and amplified when the Vancouver Canucks announced he would not return. Tocchet wasn't fired. He chose not to come back. Many fans of the Vancouver Canucks are calling him a quitter, and they're kind of right on this one. Kind of think, though, he saw the writing on the wall and didn't want to be a part of it. Vancouver was right up there with the Boston Bruins this season with regards to drama, and I would have to say the Vancouver drama was more than the Boston Bruins early season drama. Let's start with Mike Sullivan, because I think he's one that most fans of the Boston Bruins want the most. I myself think he would be a great fit in Boston, but that's because he's a good coach. The management group in Boston have made it clear that they have candidates, as they alluded to before, and has said some of them are currently coaching or they're coaching other teams. Sullivan is a native of Marshfield, Mass, and coached the Boston Bruins in 2003. The Boston Bruins were Mike Sullivan's first coaching job in the NHL. In his first season with the Bruins, he finished first, but lost in the first round of the playoffs. In his second season, they finished fourth, didn't make the playoffs, and he was fired. In 163 games for the Boston Bruins, Mike Sullivan recorded 70 wins and 56 losses and a .543 winning percentage. He's also the coach that gave young Patrice Bergeron his first chance in the NHL. He has a reputation for spotting good young talent and letting them grow into their potential. Sullivan had Patrice Bergeron for his first 2 seasons in the NHL. Sullivan helped Bergeron break into the NHL on the right wing, then oversaw his transition to center. Bergeron remains close with the organization. His input on the coaching search would be taken seriously. Sullivan coming to Boston wouldn't even mean that they would be firing Joe Sacco. For all accounts, Joe Sacco did a good job as an assistant coach of the Boston Bruins, but looked to have a hard time transitioning to head coach. A lot of times the assistant coach is the nice guy in the room and the coach has to be the tough guy. So when they have to transition from assistant to coach, it doesn't always go well. Sullivan and Sacco played together at BU for 3 seasons. Sacco would be a help in the transition for Sullivan to the Bruins organization that he hasn't been a part of in years, and need be would be an asset to him. Sullivan is the father-in-law of Charlie McAvoy and coached him at the Four Nations. At the time of the Four Nations, this is what Sullivan had to say about coaching McAvoy. I thought about it a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Sullivan told NHL.com's Amelia Benjamin, "It's an incredible opportunity. I think for all of us as family, the opportunity to coach him in an event like this is a great thrill for me. He's a great kid, first and foremost. He's a fierce competitor. I know at some point in our lives, we'll look back on this with a whole lot of gratitude to have an opportunity to work together. To have the opportunity to coach my son-in-law in an event like this, someday I will think and look back on it and smile, and just having the opportunity to work together like that. Don't underestimate the power of family. Sullivan's family is in Mass, and his grandson is in Mass, and having the opportunity to see him on a regular basis, I'm sure it would be enticing. I wouldn't mark him as a Ranger just yet." Elliot Friedman, who originally said he thought the Rangers would go deeper in their bag and get Sullivan, added to his recent 32 Thought the podcast. Here's the clip.
Here, did you have anything to add, Elliot, on the Mike Sullivan discussion?
Yeah, there was something I wanted to mention. A few people heard some of my comments I made on the NHL Network and elsewhere about Sullivan and the Rangers not letting anyone beat them to him. I had a couple of people who just pointed out to me that you should not underestimate his ties to Boston, and just, would the family want to go back there? Sullivan's worked for the Bruins before, obviously. How would he feel about that? But, if you take a look at the Bruins roster, you have Swayman, assuming they don't trade him. And even though he had a rough year, I think he comes back next year determined to be better. They've got a great defenseman in McAvoy. They've got an elite player in Pasternak who played great in a difficult situation. Yes, McAvoy's his son-in-law. How does everybody feel about all that? But I just had a bunch of people say, I think you're discounting potentially the pull to go home. So I wanted to mention that, but I will say this. Historically, the Rangers are definitely willing to go deeper into the bag of money for coaches than the Bruins have. So, that's a factor. And I think the Rangers would look at it like, are we really going to be outbid by the Bruins for a coach? But enough people mentioned that to me that I wanted to say it.
When I became a father, my perception in life changed, and I've seen the same thing happen to my parents when my daughter was born. Being close to a family means a lot to Mike Sullivan, so I would think his choices are Boston and New York, but they're his choices. I'm sure both organizations will roll out the red carpet for him and hope he chooses them, but ultimately the decision will be up to him. He won 2 Stanley Cups in Pittsburgh, and he might look at the Rangers as a team that is a better chance for the immediate future. I look at the Rangers and do see a team that most likely will be back in the postseason next year, but I don't know if I can say the same about the Boston Bruins. I still see the Bruins as a team in transition that does have some great pieces in Pasternak and McAvoy they can build around. And if Swayman can get his game back, they might make the playoffs next year. Sullivan is familiar with Sweeney as they were teammates in Boston, and he knows all too well about the pressure of being a Boston Bruin. It doesn't seem like he was fired from Pittsburgh as well. The Pittsburgh Penguins statement said that they agreed to part ways. There was a rumor that Sullivan and now GM Kyle Dubas didn't see eye to eye with the future of the Pittsburgh Penguins and where they wanted to go. Sullivan is the winningest coach in Pittsburgh Penguins history, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion and 8 playoff appearances. If I had to guess, he was done in Pittsburgh, and it was a mutual decision for them to part ways. The writing seemed to be on the wall, and the rumors of him coming to Boston started during the regular season. The only person that knows where he's coaching next season is Mike Sullivan, so I'm not going to pretend like I know where he'll land. My opinion is I think he would be a perfect fit in Boston, and what they need to turn this franchise around and add some stability behind the bench. I want to hear from you, though. Do you think Mike Sullivan would make a great coach of the Boston Bruins? Now, let's talk about Rick Tocchet, because I think this is a weird one. The reason I say that is how it all went down and his leaving of Vancouver. It was 100% Tocchet who chose to quit the Vancouver Canucks. And all of his players are coming out after the fact to say how much they're going to miss him. I don't think Jim Rutherford wanted him to leave, but here we are. Jim Rutherford, by the way, has been the funniest GM of the offseason so far. He looks like a man that has lost all will to do his job, and he's fed up with everything that is happening, and he has no control over it. I wouldn't be surprised if he secretly said to Tocchet, I'd leave too. Rutherford said he called Quinn Hughes before they announced Tocchet wouldn't be returning, and Hughes never called him back. Quinn Hughes had made it clear he thought Tocchet was a great coach, and already in the media in Vancouver are already working on angles that Quinn Hughes is leaving to go play with his brother. Connor Garland of the Vancouver Canucks recently said, I had Rick as a rookie in Arizona. Missed him for a year, and then he came back and joined me in Vancouver again at a different stage in my life and career. I was very fortunate to have him. I was a young player. I really didn't understand the details of the game and what it took to win. I was more on just relying on scoring and producing points, and he taught me the other side of the game and really filled out the rest of my game. And I will be forever grateful for that. Whether he wins another 10 more Jack Adams or doesn't win another game, those guys will go through a wall for him. He's that type of coach, and any team will be lucky to have. From the sounds of this move, it will send shockwaves through the Canucks dressing room, and they will be either rise above it or the team will be dismantled. Now, Tocchet doesn't have the best coaching record, if you ask me, and is 100% known as a player's coach, but he can be tough. I want to be fair, though, because he previously coached Arizona, which was a very bad team, and he did the best job he could there. So that does 100% play into his coaching record. In 3 years in Vancouver, though, he had a winning percentage of .608 and took the Canucks to the conference final. He had the whole team bought in there, and I think the drama in the room was too much to overcome, and they played terrible this season. He won the Jack Adams in 23-24 and now is out of a job, which seems to be a pattern around the NHL. Like Sullivan, I think Tocchet gets to choose his destination, but if he wants to do the same place Sullivan is looking to go, he'll have to get in line. I think Mike Sullivan is now the best coach available, and Tocchet is close to the top as well. For some reason, though, I'm not too sure if the Bruins have Tocchet as high on their list, and if Tocchet has the Bruins high on his list as well. I personally think the Bruins need a coach who is willing to give the kids a little more runway when it comes to development and allow them to make mistakes and hope they don't do them again. If they choose to make mistakes persist, then you know what you have, and you either move them down to Providence or you just move on. I think they need a coach with a little more structure and a coach that can command the room. The leadership group of Pasternak and McAvoy have all said the right things so far this offseason, and to me, they've shown they want to be better. I think a big part of that will be the coach. If the Bruins are serious about not packing it all in and not doing a rebuild, you can't go with a first-time coach, and you will need someone with experience behind the bench. If the choices are only Sullivan and Tocchet, and I'm not saying they are, but this is just for the sake of the conversation, I think the obvious choice is Mike Sullivan. If I'm the Boston Bruins, I do what is necessary to make him your next head coach because I don't believe for a second that the New York Rangers are the only choice. You let me know in the comments your thoughts on these two candidates as the Boston Bruins' next head coach. That's a wrap on today's video. To stay up to date on all the news surrounding the Boston Bruins, please subscribe and drop me a like. If news breaks surrounding the Boston Bruins, be sure to check out the channel. If you've already subscribed to the channel, thank you, and I'll see you next time.